another important concept when you talk about program maintainability or code maintenance is the concept and the practice of logging what you're doing. And what is this? Basically, you're recording with messages, warnings, debug information, error information, messages, and everything into a file. So you have the register and the records of everything that you did in your code. Most of us, we do this by inserting some specific messages in our code to print it out what is happening. But it's also really common practice to direct this output to a given file. And here we're going to show an example how you can pretty much use this as a standard for your code up to a certain level, of course. So in our Python _logging package, you'll find two scripts, two programs, log _main and log _setup. So let's take a look on this main block code. We're going to define an object from log info, which is our class where everything is going to be programmed there, how it should be displayed for us. And before we dive into all these messages that we have here, let's take a look closer and see how we can configure, in this case right here, what we are doing. We are configuring a log information and we are passing a text message, a file name in which this should be registered. Okay, so let's take a look on log setup here. And let's just hide this for now. So in this here, we like to put this into a separate class because it's easier to handle, right? So we have a constructor, and this constructor right here, what we are doing, we're initializing a log file name, which we are providing the name right here, and then we call this function which we call configure logging. In this function with the proper file name, what we're going to do, we're going to define what is the basic configuration for our recording of information here. So in this case, we are defining the level of information that should be in logging. So everything above debug should be recorded in our logging. The format, it should pass the time name with 12 spaces, the level name for the log, the message itself, the date format, month, days, hour, and minutes, where it should be stored, and what is the mode that we're working. In this case, here's the file mode W is writing, okay? And then with this here, it should be enough for you to record what we're doing, but it's also a good thing for you to separate stuff that you want to be in the console and stuff that you want to be in an actual log file. For this, we define a handler which we're gonna write all the info message in our console. So what we're gonna do, first we create from the logging object, which we didn't mention before, but you have to import the class, the package logging to do with this. So we create a stream handler and we define this as our console. Then we're gonna set a level of information that we want to be placed in our console. So we take the object console and we set the level for the logging, anything above info that's going to be recorded. And then here we pretty much create a format for our console. So we create that format for the console. It's going to have the time, the name separated by a bunch of spaces, the level name, and the message somehow similar on what we have on the actual log file up there. All right, and then we're going to import this format object from the class logging, here the package logging, into the console object that we defined. And we're going to call our get logger, I'm going to add those handler passing the console that we have. Okay, so now let's take a look back in our program to see what happens. Now, since we created the log object that we want to print it out our message, every time we want to print it out in the actual file, we just call logging and then we log the information there that we want, so that's fine. And but we have some extra stuff. So let's say with the handler that we created before, we can define some application areas in which we want to register what we're doing. In this example, we are creating two areas, area 1 and area 2. The first one is with respect to application code, whatever the code is for 1, and the application code 2, whatever that is. And after we create those objects, what we're doing, we're printing out some messages, and this can be spread out throughout your code, classes, so on and so forth. And we define, for example, at a given point for the area related with application code 1, which is logger 1, we're going to have the debug message, and we have a specific message there, and then we have an info message, and later on we have another debug message, and so on and so forth. The same thing for the logger 2, which is related to the application code 2. We also create a specific name for that logger, for that handler, and then every time we want to log something with respect to application code 2, we just call that object that we just created, and we say that's a warning message, an error message, an info message, and a debug message. Keep in mind that this here, we're just putting one next to each other to create an example. This could be spread out into specific functions, specific program structures, and so on and so forth, right? Another thing, if you wanna use the default logging object, you can simply say logging and then the level of information you want to record it. In this case right here is info. So info, it would be recorded in the normal logging that we just defined up there, right? Logs is just the name that we created for this case. So now if we run our code, we'll see that some specific messages, they were defined into the console. And what are the messages from area 1 and area 2? They went into the console. The same ones that we define here in our setup above info. So anything as info and above will be displayed into our console. So if we take a look back here, we see that my area 1 for info, it was recorded in the console, and if we have anything below that, as say in the bug, that was not handled there. So if we see here, and we see the first message here that we said from logger 1, which was a debug, we don't see this being reported in the console, but we are recording all the information in our log file, which we define the name up there. And where is this file? Since we didn't specify any path here, it's going to be in the same package that you were programming. So if we go ahead and take a look on this here, we'll see that the debug message, it was there, the warning message, and all the other messages from all the areas, including the last message, which was recording in not a specific area, but the logging route itself, it was also recorded in our console, the same in our log file, the same way we had in our console, okay? So we set it up this in a way that you can pretty much use this as a standard for your programs. So you create a class for logging and you can just call this and record anything you want, either in the console or in a specific file, okay? We also include some reference links so you can play around with logging, and that's pretty much it. So thank you and happy coding.